evening. Welcome to the Will and Willie Show, live from the March Theater in San Francisco. It's the Will and Willie Show, and I'm Paul Wells.
I'm Will Durst.
And I'm Willie the Brown.
Well, a lot's happened since the last time our little club met.
You think?
Here, you think? And don't say we didn't warn you. Our last show, November 1st, 2016, we were right. Will said it, and we had it backwards. Will said, who's going to explain it to Donald Trump when he wins the popular vote but loses the Electoral College?
And it was exactly the opposite.
And it still hasn't been explained.
So
he's still trying. I mean, he's kind of an amazing creature. Every day there's a new deal with him. Every day of his life, he's got no idea how to complete a sentence. It's amazing, which means he has no understanding of anything, and he could pass any lie detector test anytime because he genuinely has no belief. So you have to lie, you have to believe something.
Everything that dribbles out of his mouth is, because it doesn't matter. I mean, he's for him, it's all about propulsion to get past this moment to the next moment. He doesn't care. If he has to lie, he has to throw people under the bus. I mean, how many people has he thrown under the bus? You think the axle is getting clogged up by now with all the bodies that are under there.
He clearly, though, is capable of doing almost anything. I love the fact that there's a storm coming.
Oh. Stormy warning?
Yes.
And now there's a Playboy bunny. I just heard this on the way.
No kidding. And she looks authentic. You know, the others have looked whatever.
did he or didn't he?
But she looks actually authentic.
They all look Trumpy.
Well, they all are.
Trampy. No, I meant Trumpy. Yeah. Because they're all artifice. And that's all he is. He's just artifice, you know.
And the photographs he takes with him, he's dramatically different in each one of those photographs. It's unbelievable that he has made into the big suits with the long ties. Those ties are incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a phallic thing or if it's
He thinks it covers his gut.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. He thinks if he doesn't show any white on the bottom of the shirt, then you won't see how wide the bottom of the shirt is.
That's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but he's our president, so we...
Yes.
We
No! And right here, California. I mean, especially the Bay Area. Everybody's looking to us to find out what their cue is, how to resist. I mean, we are the rebel base right here.
Well, you know, there's a big deal this coming Saturday. There's a march all over the country led by the young folk. And they will be showing up on this Saturday here in San Francisco.
We're not going to be around to help them. They've got to do something.
And, you know, so far they have not invited any of us to speak. That's very disturbing. I love that. I love it. But those kids are incredible. And obviously there was another shooting today.
Where? I was going online to find out.
Yeah, it was another shooting today. 2 kids were shot. And one of those school monitor guys that didn't run away when the fire started, apparently he was the hero. He apparently stopped the shooter, which is
unarmed
in and of itself. What?
Was he armed or unarmed?
Oh,
he was armed.
He was armed.
He was armed.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It sets a bad precedent, the whole good guy with a gun thing, because we had a good guy with a gun in Parkland, and he didn't even go in. So do you need another good guy with a gun to...
Nor did he let anybody else go in. He
really?
Him. Yeah, don't you recall? He said, at least I saw.
Yeah.
It may have been fake news, but they said he was telling everybody, stay back, to his colleagues.
Wow.
Who were armed.
Yeah.
He didn't want anybody else to get hurt, which is kind of amazing. But today, the shooter, they shot 2 people, 2 youngsters, and the shooter they got the shooter. This one guy got the shooter, a school monitor officer, I think, or something like that they called him. I didn't get the details. Heard it just as I was coming in here. And I was talking to the cab driver, who seemed to know more about it than the press.
You found a cab?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, by all means.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Flywheel is...
He called the cab.
Yeah.
Yay.
Flywheel is the right way to go. You know, you can't...
Yeah, I've got Flywheel app on my phone right there.
How about those Uber guys? Today, somebody showed up at my office. The elevator, 5 stories up, I'm on the top floor, showed up at the office, and you got to walk up because the elevator's been broken for a couple of days, and which means Jeanette can't come to visit me because she can't get up the stairs. While I'm there, the guy on the first floor calls and says, somebody's got the Uber Eats wants to deliver something to you. Well, I haven't ordered anything from Uber Eats. What the hell is Uber Eats? I never heard of Uber Eats. So I said, no, tell him bring it up. The guy said, well, no, he says he can't bring it up. So why not? He's riding a bicycle. Let me see this. I go downstairs. I walk down 4 flights of stairs. I got there in those orange bikes.
Yeah.
You know, that are tied to the trees all around town. Those are Uber bikes. I didn't know Uber. Now, Uber tried to put cabs out of business. They're trying to put cabs out of business. Now they're trying to put bicycle rentals out of business. Where in the hell is Uber Russian? Well,
It's a German verb, you know.
I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, this guy says to me when I got down there, I'm from Uber Eats and I have some for you. I said, forget it. I don't want any food from some called Uber Eats. He said, no, I bought a bottle of wine. Here's your wine. I said, why did you say you're Uber Eats? He said, I'm told to identify who I represent. I represent Uber Eats. And are you Willie Brown? I said, well, first and foremost, if you don't already know I'm Willie Brown, I got a problem. I need therapy instantly.
You sure it wasn't a process server?
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
No, but it gets worse. During the course, we go back and forth, and he said to me, okay, what year in which you were born? Make sure you give me the right date.
What?
Yeah. I said, you have this information on me? He said, of course I have this information on you. Doesn't everybody? I said, well, then why are you asking me if everybody has it? I'm included in everybody. So we go back and forth, and he finally said, well, why don't you just sign right here? Sign what? My iPad. He had an iPad. And on the iPad, he had all the information. So he said, just sign right here and take this damn thing. I said, okay. So I signed Donald J. Trump. And to show you how ill-equipped he was, he didn't know the difference. That's what you get with Uber Eats.
Nobody cares. You can say,
no.
I do the little squiggle and they don't care.
No, I got it better than that. I do a straight line now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do a straight line.
You don't do the X?
And American Express took my black card back.
I have the school
No, I don't
shooting.
do the X. You think all the brothers do X's? What is this, Will? What is this?
No, I do the X sometimes. I just
That's what I
want to
said. You
piss them
think all
off.
brothers do that? You've been passing all this time.
So tell me, old man. 1934.
Like he's a spring chicken.
Yeah,
I did.
Oh,
Shut up.
Oh,
I forgot I'm on the radio. I almost used a nasty word.
Yes, go right ahead.
1934.
Yeah.
And I was just going back over your little book, and you talked about being a shoe shine boy.
Not in 34.
No. But early Mineola, and you worked a shoe shine stand in an all-white barber shop.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Parker's Barbershop. And, they come up, and old man Parker died. And Floyd Sapp, who had been working there, immediately moved in with the widow. He got the barbershop and the widow.
And the
widow,
wow.
yeah. So I said, maybe we ought to find out why the old man died. Because the old man died like And he was really a good guy.
Like boom.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He used to curse out the guys who used to flip the corns in the spittoon. You're not getting that out of the spittoon. I'll pay you. I'll give you a corn. I don't want you back at my barbershop. And then when Floyd Sapp took over.
No kidding.
Floyd Sapp didn't want me in the barbershop. I used to have to sweep the hair and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it was a cool dude. It was a cool job.
The guys would flip you the tip into the cuspidor? Into
it wasn't
the
a tip.
bucket?
It was
the payment. The
Thank
payment.
you. Yeah.
That was standard operating procedure in the South.
Yeah. We forget. I mean, it's still not even. It's still not good. But
Well, what's not good?
Race relations?
Oh, no, not at all. Yesterday, the New York Times did a front page story. Black kids and privileged positions, families where they raised, had enough money, educate their kids, lived in a good neighborhood. At the end of the cycle, 18, 19 years of age, maybe 20, 22 years of age, invariably the black males were still unequal. Black females were treated a little bit better, and their income stream, etc. This country is really still screwed up on the question of race, and most of us either ignore it or deny it. And that's a real tragedy, frankly, because so much talent is being wasted. Just look at what San Francisco did. We've had one female mayor in this city, Dianne Feinstein, and she got to be a female mayor. I think she lost twice before George Moscone was assassinated, and she got the gig because she was president of the board. London Bree comes along, heart attack kills Ed Lee. She gets the deal, and what do? The progressives put together the removal operation and got rid of the black woman and a woman at the same time, or this last time around. That was not an accident. That was part of what this country is about. When we should have been, no matter what color, if she's a woman, one woman in the history of San Francisco, we ought to be overjoyed at having another woman. But then if you got a Tui, you got a black woman who actually, kind of knows what she's doing. We should have all been. Yet we have not been outraged. Nobody has been marching on all of those progressives who claims that they are the soul and they represent the moral being of our city. Yet they sat there and with clarity they did not want a black woman, literally, because they elected a white, rich guy who had basically the same politics. Now tell me if that isn't the evidence of racism.
I was there.
Clear evidence of racism and sexism. Yet they still run around making speeches and claiming that they're the oracle, that they're the climate control people, that they're the individuals who believe traffic congestion, that they're the individuals who believe bicyclists ought to be given carte blanche, they ought to be first in the use of the streets, etc. We are so hypocritical in this country and in this city, in this state and in this city. That's why Trump wins. We are hypocrites.
Yeah.
His people are not hypocrites.
Right.
Many of them are racist, sexist, anti-everything, and they're proud of it.
That's the Republican Party. That's the Republican Party. He didn't destroy the Republican Party. He lifted the rock they were hiding under. How did you sneak in?
Well,
How did you sneak in? What did you have on whom?
Ran against Frank Jordan.
You ran against
I like
an
Frank.
incumbent.
He's a nice guy, but mayor. And you didn't take a shower either, I might point. A couple of DJs.
They asked the question. There was a debate during the course of that race. There was a debate, right? And the debate was at Golden Gate College. It was like this, and I had a whole host of good people around against me. Roberta Achtenberg, Angela Alioto. Angela's been in every mayor's race, I think, since the beginning of time. But Angela
My
Alioto
father
and
Sonny Jim
started one
Rolfe
of those speeches.
versus Angela.
But
it's a brand. It's a brand.
Yeah.
And the next night they had this debate after he had been in the shower. I had been unable to speak because I lost my voice. But my voice came back magically because I showed up that night And they asked the question of each one of us, about the shower. They got to me and said, would you take a shower? I said, yeah, I would take a shower. Circumstances, right? What are the circumstances? I said, a lady washed my back and a lady washed my front. And you got me. But not two guys. And that's how I won.
Pat Johnson took that photo.
Yes, he did.
Pat Johnson.
And then his office and studio was broken into and ransacked a couple of times trying to find the negative. We must have the negative.
Because
I have the negative.
The rumor was that it was a full body shot.
Right, he cropped it.
It is.
And he cropped it for the Examiner, but Pat told everybody, no, that was the full shot. But it wasn't.
No,
he had the full shot.
That is true.
With
my guy Jack Davis bought it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my campaign.
But you never released the full shot.
Why would you embarrass him?
Never
one going to such great extent to show so little.
Why
would you embarrass him? Why would you embarrass him?
He didn't want to show off his shortcomings.
Why would you embarrass him? I wouldn't.
Somebody in the audience said that Warren Hinkle printed it in the Argonaut. But wasn't that a drawing of the rest of it?
No, it was a photograph and one on the front page and it landed on everybody's doorstep.
Oh, really?
Dick Conquisto photoshopped it. I heard.
You guys, both of those guys are dead. Neither one of them can speak for themselves. And here we got two guys laying it on them. By the way, it's amazing. A dead man has published 2 books.
That's right.
There have been 2 Warren Hinkle books since his death.
Wow. He's as prolific
And they
as
are
L. Ron
good
Hubbard.
books.
Yeah.
The last one is a collection of essays and stories from a collection of his friends. Really, it's huge.
It's beautiful, too.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful book.
It's something Trump would never see. But
he doesn't read. Trump doesn't read. He admits he doesn't. How do they prep him for the summits and stuff? Do they use hand puppets?
No, he doesn't need any prepping. He makes it up as he goes. Literally. He has no reason to be concerned about the absence of knowledge. It's pretty apparent. So he makes things up.
He bragged about making something up in a meeting with Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister. He bragged about it.
Yeah, he bragged about it. He talked about the surplus, allegedly, the trade imbalance that exists between Canada and the USA. If people lie about you, you got a problem. Because you got to go say, well, he's lying about me. Well, what is he lying about? Well, then you got to say he said or she said. Oh, no, don't do that. Just ignore the lie. Lie about them.
That's the famous Lyndon Johnson line when he won his first congressional seat. Yes.
A fellow
Texan. He floated this rumor like the Sunday before the Tuesday election.
Yes, he did.
Floated a rumor that the other guy had intercourse with his sheep.
That's right.
And someone asked him, "Are you sure that's true?" He says, "I want to hear him deny it."
That's a bad joke.
That's a true story, though. Yes. Lyndon Johnson did exactly that. He did exactly that, and he was famous for it. All of the debates and all of the public presentations with his opponents, he would always throw them off. No matter how well prepared they were, he would cause them to have to address something that was so outrageous, and there was nobody would challenge him. And in those days, there was not real press. The press didn't challenge politicians. They didn't, and usually it was your press. You kind of had a relationship with the press. It got you there, and Johnson was famous for that. And so all of his opponents at all times were always subject to being dismembered by virtue of his representations. And he also had one more great thing. In the world of politics, you really do want to have access to the count.
To the count.
Who counts the votes? That's
Before
what
the counts.
You know, it's not only the first day of spring, it's also Mayor Willie Brown's birthday.
Holy crap.
And Stephanie,
Nice
the
cake.
owner of the Marsh, said it's an electric candle because no fire. And if we had to put 84 candles on there, oh, my God, the sprinklers would go off.
Yes.
But happy birthday, Willie Brown.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
It's a
Thank you
beautiful
very
white
much.
cake.
And this is Rich Azzolino from
Photo.
Sotomare. I've been told they have the best seafood in North Beach, and you must try it.
It's beautiful. Thank you, sir.
What bakery did that come
Great
from?
cake. It was.
Deonda in North Beach. So
And
we're going to
I
put
want
the
you to
cake-
know they do have great
We're
seafood.
going to at the end. Yeah.
I had the sandabs there.
Oh.
John
all right.
Burton and a couple of other people took me to lunch there, and I had the sandabs there.
So we'll cut up the cake, and then at 7 o'clock when we go off the air, that's when you can have cake. All right?
Not until then.
Surprise!
Yeah, my show starts at 8.
That is a surprise.
So I want everybody sugared up.
We managed to not tell the mayor this is what's happening. The cake was happening.
Yes.
I did find out you prefer vanilla ice cream, though.
Well, now wait a minute. I don't reject all the other flavors.
Well, you know,
True
it's time.
politician.
It's time to bring our guest on from the San Francisco Chronicle and your page mate on Sundays quite often. Heather Knight, come up over and take a seat.
Heather has been here before. Hey, Heather.
Yes.
How are you, lady?
When I
Nice
said
to
we
see
were
you.
picking up where we left off at the Will and Willie show in 2016, Heather was a guest. So, you know, we made full circle back again, live, Facebook Live, which we had like 2,500 people watch by the time we were finished in 2016. And now it's gained a little momentum. Plus, we're on KSCO. And I want to say hello to all the listeners on KSCO and KSCO.com. And thank Billy Graff in the back for running the board. And Dave Michaels, whose hour, he graciously gave up the last hour of his afternoon show. And plus Michael Swirling, sitting in the front row, owns the radio station. Because you can't get on the air in San Francisco if you're not right of everything. And what KSCO is like is everybody's covered. So, Heather, you've been covering the homeless a lot.
I have, yes.
Is that microphone on?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. Let's
The
get it
green
up.
light is showing.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I've been writing a lot about homelessness, quality of life issues, the open air drug injection, which is so blatant these days, tent encampments, the dirt, the grime, everything we see all the time walking around San Francisco.
And it's endemic in Santa
Auto
Cruz and a lot
break-ins.
of other places, too.
Yep.
Auto break-ins.
I saw a car break-in happen right before my eyes.
I
read
saw
about.
that when you put it in the paper. I went,
Yeah.
well, kind of red-handed, don't you think? I mean, right there smashing the window, while the reporter's standing in the street, but they
Yeah.
did get him.
That was kind of crazy. I went with a photographer out to Lombard Street, right above the twisty part, where there are just tons of break-ins all the time because people know it's a tourist hotspot. Tourists park there not knowing, about our huge car break-in problem. So we were talking to some homeowners and guys who work out there, and one of the construction workers said, look at this car. There's paper plates. It's a silver nondescript car that's just circling. They never go down the twisty part. And he pointed out, we kept talking, and then sure enough, the car stopped right in front of us, jumped out. It takes like 3 seconds, literally. They have this little tool that smashes a window, doesn't make any reverberation, so the alarms don't go off. They can
Right.
grab a
Just goes
backpack and just zoom off. And I'm pretty sure he saw our huge camera because in one image he's looking right at it. So.
And he didn't care.
Did you get the license plate?
Yeah.
the camera?
Well,
They had no license plate on it.
we had notified police, and there were several undercover officers right on the same block, but it happened so quickly because they don't know where exactly the car will stop. They were just ready and waiting and couldn't get him. So.
Except that on this past Sunday, there was, and today, there was a report of the reduced number of auto break-ins. They
Yeah.
said they're down by 30%.
SFPD does those comp stat statistics every month, and they put out a press release yesterday that car break-in reports were down 15% from February of last year and 31% just between January and February of this year.
And they arrested a few people in the process.
A few.
What
I
a
think they're-
deterrent.
Yeah.
Going to jail. Wow.
We're kind of wondering if people are just stopping reporting because the reports don't do anything anyway. We had another reporter unearth some interesting statistics about all of the online reports that are made because the cops don't want to go out, and investigate anything once the break-in's over, so they say just report it online. And I think of those reports, like 8 out of thousands and thousands were ever led to an arrest. So.
And one of the stories reported that the head of the union of the fire department 5 times. Yeah. 5 times.
Tom O'Connor was at City Hall negotiating their new contract with the fire department, and his car was broken into right in front of City Hall, like within view of the mayor's office.
And it's kind of amazing because these break-in people are not discriminating. You'd think they would be breaking in Mercedes and BMWs. This guy has an old car, 2010.
That's old?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm driving my midlife Chrysler until it dies.
And I bet you it hasn't been broken into.
It's got a convertible top.
No need to break it.
No need to break it.
Yeah, they really go after cars that appear to be tourist rental cars. Those are the big ones. I interviewed a woman who was here from New York a couple weeks ago, and her window was smashed, and she had to drive it back to the airport to trade it in for a car that was intact. And as she was driving on 101, a seagull flew into the big hole in her window. Yeah.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Who was her passenger, Randy? The pitcher?
She got to the rental car agency and just told
Randy Johnson,
told the woman at the desk, "That's your problem now."
You know what I noticed yesterday was downtown, so many empty storefronts, especially around Union Square. I mean, there was 3 on one block.
Well, retail has changed in this nation and has changed in this city dramatically.
But is it because landlords are demanding so much rent?
So much more rent. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when I arrived, you talked about my coming in from Texas. Well, I got here from Texas, and one of the first things that people told me about was Powell Street. And they told me about a steak place. I did not eating any steak. I was a pork eater. And I went to Tad's.
Tad's?
$1.09.
Yeah,
and
you got a steak.
You got a steak. You got a piece of
potato.
You got an open half potato. You got a salad, and you got a piece of French bread that had been looked like motor oil put on it, but it was really and that was about $1.09.
Wow.
Well, the price has changed. I was chatting with the people over there the other day, and they were moving. So why are you moving? Their rent is like $115,000 a month. Can you believe that?
A month?
Yeah, I assume they were already paying about $30,000 a month, but $115,000 a month.
And they already rented another location.
What?
They already rented another location. They're kind of stuck in between, aren't they?
No. They only rented the new location because of the rent raise.
Right.
They had to move. They got to move, and they're moving into a facility that the city owns, one of those garages. First floor, one of the garages. But can you imagine $115,000 a month?
How can anybody make money on that?
Oh, that steak would have to go up. No longer $1.09.
I think it's a little more than $1.09 these days, but still, in New York, there used to be a Tad Steaks next to my dad's place. He had a shoe store that he started as a Saturday extra, and he wound up owning it. But the Tad Steak was right next door, so we had the biggest rats in our basement that you would ever see, not because of Tads, but just because, it's food. Rats.
Were you sure that they were actually serving steaks if the rats were that size?
In New York, I wouldn't.
If the rats were that size, I mean, But he raised a question about the number of vacant retail spaces in downtown San Francisco. Well, I bet you there are probably 15 to 20% in the total shopping area, starting, let's say, at or about Mason and coming all the way down to about Kearny, and then started from Market to about Bush.
Yeah,
to about Bush. I bet you it's somewhere between 15 and 20% vacancy.
Neighborhoods all over the city are struggling with that problem. We did a story on Cow Hollow and how so many of their stores are vacant. I live in Glen Park. There's a number there. Landlords are just demanding higher and higher rents and driving out the small businesses, and then nobody's coming in to replace them. So much shopping now is done online that I think the customer base isn't there either like it used to be.
In part, it is online shopping that's having an effect on, because people don't walk in anymore, or if they do, they bring back what they bought online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of
people are trying to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now you know you can bring everything
like
back.
Land's End.
You can bring everything back. You know, you put some tape on the bottom of the shoes. You wear them. A few days later, a few weeks later, take the tape off. You got new shoes.
Do you do that, Willie?
No, not anymore.
Man, that was a nice setup.
But we do, in San Francisco, we really do need to consider some kind of maybe self-regulation on the accelerated, incredible increase in commercial real estate prices. Storefronts, I totally agree with whoever said we should not allow people to get away with having empty storefronts. They ought to have to pay more taxes, just like they do on vacant lots. We ought to do the same thing on storefronts. There was a Asian art store, artifact store on
Grant and Bush.
Yeah, and lo and behold, they lost their lease because of the upside. I told the guy that owned the place, or at least he said he owned it, you realize that if you don't rent this place for 3 or 4 months, you will have lost the opportunity, and it'll be years before you will regain. It's now been 2 years, and he has not been able to rent it. That is just so good. I just love the fact that he's being punished. He could have kept that business going there, etc. I think he was hoping to get one of those places that has all that odd-shaped, big, beautiful stuff that I've never seen anybody buy. Think about it.
You
There
go
are 4 or
past
5
them.
of those stores.
You go
no,
past them.
That's right. No, but you can't. They all now speak to me. Hey, what about stuff coming? Hello, hello. And they got all those statues out there and in front and what have you. But there's nobody that buys anything in any of those stores. And so I can't figure out how they're making it.
Tourists are going to come home with a 500-pound Chinese lion. I don't think so.
No. Not at all. It's just kind of amazing. But they're encroaching on Chinatown. Suddenly, at one time, if you recall, we really, when Rose Pack was alive in particular, we really did protect Chinatown. You had to be almost Chinese to open a store in Chinatown, no matter what your store was. All of a sudden, if you go down Grant now, you see that there are a lot more stores that have that kind of product in it, and they're not being run by Chinese and what have you, and it's taken on a whole new train. I walked down there a couple of nights ago just wandering around, and lo and behold, everything goes dark the minute it's dark. There are no more stores. It used to be Chinatown was open at night.
I used to go eat there, Sam Woes, at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, now, if you go to Mr. Jew's, it will be the last time you eat in Chinatown because you will not be able to afford to go back. You won't. That's what Mr. Jew charges for the food that they serve there. Although China Live is one hell of a place up on, but it's on Broadway. That big place right next to the Improv. You remember when the Improv was there? Yeah. That they now have something called China Live. They have 4 kitchens on the main floor. Yeah, one kitchen cooks, Chinese food, another kitchen cooks American food, another kitchen cooks seafood, and somebody else. It's incredible. It's a huge place. And I think I was the only guy in there that had a tie. Nobody else was wearing a tie.
Not just wearing a tie, but owned one.
That's right.
Heather Knight is our guest from the San Francisco Chronicle. We're live on KSCO Radio, KSCO.com, and I have people watching at Facebook Live. John Murray checked in. Make comments if you go to Facebook Live. Give it a like. You can give it a heart or a thumbs up or a laughing
face.
Facebook
Facebook lost $36 billion
yesterday
in market cap.
That's getting applause.
Yesterday.
There's a big movement to delete your Facebook accounts. That's that hashtag, of course, on Twitter is trending, encouraging people to delete their Facebook. And I know a number of people who are doing that, just sick of the whole privacy concerns, what happened during the election.
Well, you mean the Russian hacking of our election in 2016?
Just that, yeah. How open their data is on Facebook. And, you can sign up for so many things through Facebook, and so now all of that data is just all over the internet, and people are just realizing it.
I won't put their Messenger app on my phone because it's spyware.
Yeah.
It continually watches everything you do on your phone, and it's data mining. And I don't blame them. I have no problem. I've been in advertising and radio my whole life. No problem. And we survey listeners, we'd find out, we get their emails or whatever. But I have no problem with marketing. I have a problem with how it gets passed on to people you have no intention. 50 million people were passed through Steve Bannon's company to the Russians. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? And Facebook went, oh, don't do that. And that's all they did.
Yeah, I think they're really not coming to terms with how serious this is and what they should do about it. They just seem to be kind of ignoring the whole thing.
Well, isn't that kind of an attitude, though, in the world of communications now, in the ease with which all of us can communicate with each other? We kind of think that it's perfectly okay for information to be transmitted no matter what. As a matter of fact, many consider it more important that the information be transmitted on the theory that you can somehow figure out that which is accurate, that which is not accurate, that which is true, and that which is not true. It's important that you keep communicating. That don't want any limitations on your ability to communicate and your access. And I'm guessing that that's why there has not been real serious attention given by those who control that mechanism, those who have the platform, to make sure that what comes through their platform is wholesome, so to speak. If you start doing that, some of us would never get on the platform.
Who's the watchman? Yeah.
Yep,
and
exactly.
Who watches.
And
it's also, can California actually make a dent in net neutrality? I mean, if we pass a law demanding anybody who does business in California has to ascribe to net neutrality, will that force the rest of the country to fall in line?
Can we put up a wall around California?
Charge a $2, just a tiny cover charge.
Yes, right.
And a 2-drink minimum.
2-drink minimum.
The Chronicle executives are pretty annoyed with Facebook's changing of the algorithm
all the time
about news. And so since they couldn't figure out how to regulate fake news, they just decided, well, we'll push all news down to the bottom so nobody will see any news. And it's all back to,
low information
cat
voters.
videos. Yeah.
The Chronicle is one of the few papers in the country that are making money now. Chronicle's making money.
It is. Yeah.
In the interest of transparency, we have 2 writers.
I was going to say,
the San Francisco Chronicle.
It's got 2 good
stage.
writers I know about.
Well, we're getting our paychecks, right? Yeah.
Heather, you've been writing a lot about the homeless, and I know our listeners in Santa Cruz have a similar problem, just as endemic to them because it's such a laissez-faire kind of community that they're overwhelmed.
Keep Santa Cruz weird.
Encampments. It's the only town I've ever felt like I should take off my shoes when I'm in town, Santa Cruz. And it's like it was where old Volkswagen buses went to die.
Yeah. I think people are really realizing the mental health crisis within the homeless population.
It's
and
part of it.
It's not humane to just leave people to wither away on the streets and allow them to die, even if they don't say they want help or accept help. Scott Wiener is pushing a change in conservatorship laws at the state, and I think there's increasing realization that the compassionate notion of just letting them be there forever is not so compassionate.
No.
I recall when serving as mayor, I ran afoul of everybody after attempting in every way to do something about homelessness. I finally said publicly, it's not a problem that can be solved.
Do you still believe that?
I got pillared. What I really meant, you can manage it, but you really can't ultimately solve it, because the nature of our democracy that eliminates the ability of the authority to take against people's will and move them, relocate them, unless they meet certain thresholds, danger to themselves, a danger to others, etc. They violate some of the rules. I said, as long as those things are in place, unlike New York, where Giuliani just picked people up wholesale because they changed the laws of New York and they allowed that to occur. We will never do that in San Francisco. And as a result of that, management of the homeless issue, what we can do is stop people from giving tents, for an example.
Tent is not a home. It doesn't have hot and cold running water, doesn't have a roof that doesn't leak. It doesn't have a kitchen, a bathroom. It's not a home. And people handing out tents are not ending homelessness. They're making it worse.
But they really believe that on a rainy night like now, that they really are doing the Lord's work by protecting the health from things like colds and pneumonia and what have you. If they provide tent coverage for people, at least it'll keep them dry. Those kinds of challenges all have to be met by people who are in charge and who are trying to ultimately address the problem. Oakland's homelessness is worse issue. Now is worse than San Francisco. In Los Angeles, literally has,
under the highway,
the city of Los Angeles literally has a section of Los Angeles that looks more like what theoretically Calcutta looked like.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at someone who came up from L.A. to work for Uber up here and said, we don't have homeless in L.A. I said, what part of L.A. do you live in? Hawthorne. I said,
well, that's not L.A.
Yeah. Honey, you're in Orange County.
Yeah, the homeless issue in this mayor's race.
What do you think about Leno saying that he would fix it end it in 100 days?
Well, that was me that said that. I knew you were going to take.
No,
that
you were going to fix Muni.
I knew you were going to take that shot.
Boy, is Muni ever fixed?
You know, people still ask me about that. It's been 20 more years ago, and they still say, "You said you're going to fix Muni in 100 days." I didn't say what 100 days.
Exactly. On the Will and Willie Show, give yourselves a big hand for being the live audience here at the Marsh Theater. We have that microphone right there. We have a Q&A. We only have 15 minutes left because we have a hard end to the show at 7. So please come to the microphone to ask questions. Anything you want to ask, Willie Brown, Will Durst, Heather Knight, leave me out of it.
We got 12 minutes, ladies.
Start with Heather.
14 minutes.
Start with Heather. Come up to the microphone and ask a question, please.
On the homeless issue, I've been struck that all of them are coming up with their brand new plans. I also how to clean the streets when several of them have been in office and have had the opportunity this whole time to be working on those issues.
How do you see the mayor's race shaping up? I see that Jane Kim is in second place according to a poll.
Yeah, I thought that the front runners would be Mark Leno and London Breed, kind of neck and neck, and it looks like Jane Kim is in several polls actually doing better than Mark Leno. I think maybe voters who want to pick a progressive mayor would rather go with a woman and a minority candidate in this year. So she's attracting a lot of votes.
But that was before he came out and said that he was going to fix homelessness. So.
Well, yeah, it's better that you don't put a date on which.
Take it from the voice of experience.
I actually had reasons to say what I said because the Muni drivers were so mad at Frank Jordan at that time. They explained to me they hadn't gotten a raise and they said, we promise you this. We're only running the system about 80%. We'll give you 95%. We'll show up for work. The equipment will be operational and what have you, and that'll pretty much solve the problem. I said, how long will it take you to get everybody reoriented to doing that? They said, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. 100 days. Yeah, well, as soon as they got the raises, they moved to Vallejo.
We have an icebreaker for the first question from the audience here at the Marsh Theater, and it's MZ, Michael Zwirling from KSCO, because he's not a stranger around microphones.
Hi, I learned something new this evening, and I'm curious about the source of this information. What I heard just a few minutes ago was that the San Francisco Chronicle is a profitable enterprise. And where did that information come from? I don't believe it.
From the Chronicle.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
Because they jumped on the internet early.
Absolutely.
Okay. With SF Gate?
Yes.
Okay, well, maybe that's true. Good. So that's the answer to the question. Okay.
They're doing very well. Neither one of my checks have ever bounced.
Checks don't necessarily bounce when a company is in a negative cash flow. I know.
Anybody else? Sir.
State your name.
My name is Ken Ruther.
Hey,
Lobster.
hello,
How you
Ken.
doing?
Oh, nobody calls me Lobster around here.
Well, I know you since the 1970s, so I'm allowed to do that. My question is, what are your thoughts on a possible petition to nominate Aaron Peskin as chief of the fire department here in San
Did you see he actually apologized today?
Did he? From where? Where did he got out of town? I
thought he went on vacation.
He had a answering machine that said he won't be back to April, to the 2nd of the next month. And then I did hear today that he's going to apologize, or maybe he did.
He did. I joked that we'd never had a headline with the words Peskin apologizes before.
Yeah, I haven't heard him actually say it, so we'll see. He just seems to know how to start a lot of fires, so maybe he might be able to be in that position.
Maybe the rest of the audience isn't aware, but there was a fire in North Beach right on the corner
Saturday
of
night.
Union and Stockton, or Union and
Columbus,
depending on where your vantage, your parallax view. But Peskin supposedly said during the fire that the police chief hadn't done enough to
5 minutes after it started.
Yeah. So, and that spread like wildfire.
And the firemen were there 2 minutes after the start started, which is far above the national
I didn't
average
understand
in urban fires.
The charge. I didn't quite get it.
He had an issue with the way they were fighting the fire and wanted more water thrown on the outside of the building immediately.
Well, you have to get people out first before you.
Yeah.
You don't turn a hose on people. You learned that in Selma.
You also, in the firefighting process, you clearly want to contain the fire. And if you can fight the fire from the inside, you do so. And that's what they did, because you can go down and take a look. The brick walls around the building are still there.
They didn't collapse.
Did not collapse, nor did they burn. There's no evidence of anything burned on the exterior, because the fire people went in, made sure there was nobody inside that could be injured, made sure everybody was cleared the place. Then they started the business of making sure the fire didn't get out on the outside, and they succeeded in doing that. I was down there. There were about 100 and, I don't know, more than 100 firemen down there. Mm-hmm. And man, were they working. They were really moving. And all you saw in the way was, this little fellow. I had no idea who the little fellow was. running around.
We have another question from our audience here at the Marsh.
Sure. You've been
Name?
Larry Eilenberg, and you've been talking about the mayor's race, but could you handicap the governor's race?
I think the next governor will be our former mayor.
Willie's running for governor?
Willie, you didn't tell us. I'll vote for you.
Some guy at lunch today told me, I want you to answer one question for me, if you will. I said, I certainly will. I don't understand. You had an opportunity to run for governor in 1998 and you didn't. Why didn't you? I looked at him. I said, well, I really don't remember. I'm now 84.
You could have been Senator Brown, Governor Brown.
Well, the governor's race. It's an interesting group of people. I appointed Newsom to the Board of Supervisors. I started his career.
Yes, you did.
I started Leno's career. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many ungrateful people that I have.
Some might say you promoted Kamala as well.
There's no question that she called me and wished me happy birthday today.
Did she?
Yeah. Some other people did too.
I bet.
Well, she did. But at any rate, you got Newsom, and then Antonio Villaraigosa, a young man that I had an occasion to meet back in the 90s when I served in the legislature. And every time there was a new crop of legislators, never more than 6 or 8, I would always say, among you, one of you have the talent to possibly replace me as Speaker at that time. And I dubbed him, and I made him a whip early on because I knew he had that kind of talent. Then he went on to become the mayor of Los Angeles for 2 terms. We've got a good collection of people. John Chung, who is the treasurer of the state of California, was a controller, was on the Board of Equalization. He was a staff guy that I met when he was serving in that capacity in the world of politics in California. Talented man, or can perform very well. I even have a Republican who isn't without skills in order to do it. Delane Easton, the woman who was superintendent of schools, one of my good people during the time that we had the war with Pete Wilson over school funding. So California really is blessed with a collection of talented people. I think in this crazy way we do elections now, we no longer do partisan elections. Right. We do whoever gets the first. Yeah, nobody can win in the primary. I don't like that. You ought to be able to win the race in the primary. You'd have to eliminate everybody, like nobody else can get a vote except you. Then you'd have to establish no write-in. But now you'll get two Democrats, in my opinion, running. And so the question will be, will it be Chong or will it be Villaraigosa? It is clear Newsom is going to have one of the spots. Newsom is the Hollywood guy. He is bright, able, got 4 kids. And the kids got these wonderful names that makes it interesting. One of them is named Montana. One of them is named Brooklyn. One of them is named Dutch. I mean, you can't believe this.
Which one doesn't match the others?
It's really just fabulous. And he's got a movie-making wife and a movie star kind for wife. I mean, it's just absolutely. I look to see them on the red carpet. So they really do look like the right collection of people. On the other hand, Antonio is warm and charming and clever and funny. If he walked in here now and you had a choice, who would you go to dinner with? It would be with Antonio, but you better watch it. Make sure you have an arrangement about who pays before you go to dinner. Newsom will pick up the tab, but Antonio is kind of short on the hand. You have to have that conversation.
Pockets full of fish hooks.
Yeah. And John Chong probably wouldn't take you to dinner. So it's an interesting collection of people. But I'm looking forward. And clearly Newsom is going to be in the runoff. The question is who will be against him. Interestingly enough, it may very well be the one Republican that can get there. If Cox can put all the Republicans in one bag,
right,
and some of the moderate Democrats, and get 22 or 23% of the vote, he will be in the runoff. It'll be Cox versus Newsom, and I'm guessing that Newsom is praying that it's Cox.
Yeah.
Let's put on the 2018 and maybe even 2020 hat for just a second. 2018, do the Democrats take the House and the Senate again? Heather.
I'm going to say yes. I hope so.
If it's a fair election. If it's not a fair election, hello, New Zealand.
So you're moving again.
Yeah.
You're relocated.
Yeah. If
how about this Democrat in Pennsylvania that was to the right of the Republican he was running against? That guy Lamb?
Yeah, Connor Lamb.
He announced, he walks in and says, okay, I'm running, but I will not vote for Pelosi if I win. The audience should have emptied the room. Period. You can't say things like that, and you shouldn't say things like that. And then he said, and secondly, I'm already armed. I got my gun. Well, no. No, that's got to be the way Trump operates.
Playing by his rules.
And he also announced that I genuinely believe that everybody should make sure that everything that ever gets impregnated is born. Mm-hmm. I am against any form of early termination.
Personally.
And the guy...
Personally, he's against it.
Yeah. And the guy wins.
It's Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh.
Well, just outside of Pittsburgh.
Just outside of Pittsburgh. No, he carried Allegheny County. It's the counties around that county that he didn't carry. Because they're to the right of the right.
Yeah. But what about the Democrats in November?
The Democrats in November, in my opinion, will do extremely well. I'm with Heather on it. I think that they will, at least in the House. The Senate may have trouble.
Yeah.
Because the leadership of the Senate is still trying to find its own way.
And they're defending so many seats.
Yeah. Once Harry Reid left, it became kind of leaderless. And, Schumer is like one of those people receiving Academy Awards. Why would an actor need to read who he's thinking or she's thinking? Schumer needs that to say, my name Yeah. Talk.
Wait, you can have a piece of paper if you're president that says,
Yeah.
tell them you're listening. We have listeners, and we're going to have to let go of them at 7, so we're going to have to wrap up the show.
Thank you guys so much.
A couple of
for
things
listening.
to do first. One, the Marsh here is a breeding ground for new performances. They produce 600 shows every year at the San Francisco and now Berkeley venues, founded in 1989 by artistic director Stephanie Weissman. That means we have just about a minute to go. The Marsh, they have Will Durst at 8 o'clock tonight. They have Brian Copeland, a lot of other people. And also, they have a year-round youth program where no child is turned away because of financial need. Put money in the jar before you leave, since you got in here free to the Marsh tonight. Give yourselves a big hand. Let's hear it for Rich Azzolino from Sotomare Restaurant in North Beach for bringing the cake. Kendo and his crew, Mysterious LLC, in conjunction with Hills and Associates. And it's Kendo's birthday, too.
Oh, right on.
And
on the count of 3, happy birthday. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday! Yay! This was the Will and Willie Show, live from the Marsh Theater in San Francisco. Go to willandwillie.com to find out more. Thank you for listening, watching, or being here tonight. And we'll catch you for 2018.2.